You. So good morning. We are now live. So hi, Lynn.
Hi, Delinda. Hi, everybody.
It is just great to see you and have you on the show this morning. So yay!
Hey, it's spring out there somewhere. I know it's more spring where you are than where I am. So we got to bring the right.
Exactly. And yes, it is spring here. Matter of fact, we feel like we're already in summer because we were in the pool on Sunday, on Mother's Day. Can you even imagine? It was so beautiful. Yeah, we've had some days up in 95, 99. We've hit 99 already, but just for a day, and then it kind of came back down. But the mornings are so beautiful. I encourage everybody to move west.
Hey, well, when the high yesterday and likely today here is 49 degrees, you create a compelling case.
Yes. But you will have more of a spring with all the flowers coming up. Ours are, everything's in bloom. My flowers in my backyard are the prettiest they've ever been. Now, granted, we only had the backyard like redone 2.5 years ago. And, the first year they tell you it's not going to be pretty the first year. But this year, it's like, oh, and I just love being out there. So we'll bring sunshine to all of you that don't have sunshine out there.
Yeah, sunshine and flowers as opposed to dreary and dirt.
Yeah,
we had too much of that.
I lived in Chicago area for 10 months. And I
felt like 4 years, huh?
That was like, I don't need to go back. It's like it was, I love downtown. I love going down there and shopping and just being down there. And I love taking the train. It was really fun. But I really can't say that I like the weather. I just did not. And it was just too gray all of the time. And so I admire you for hanging in there.
Well, because I moved to the Chicago area and long ago and far away, I came up with the line of, 30 days hath September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except January and February, which have 80.
It probably feels like that. Hey, Deborah, good morning. So we've had our first person sign on and say hello. I love it when you guys sign in so we know that we actually have live bodies out there listening to us. Because it makes
Delinda and I are just fascinating people, but we like it when other people join us too.
Absolutely. So, so we're going to have a fun time this morning. And Lynn and I met. We were talking about that. So when do you think it was? We were at a special program together. We met, and when do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's 2016 when we met.
That is cool. So then, and do you remember what time of the year it was? I don't know.
Because I remember it was on the East Coast, and we were along the ocean. And
yes. I think it was July. As a matter of fact, I think it was July in one of the Carolinas, South Carolina.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was 2016.
Myrtle Beach area, right?
Well, and I have to laugh because we sit here on technology that wasn't even invented then. And and for Delinda and me in that program, the big challenge was, okay, take your phone and record a video of yourself. And I remember Delinda held my phone, and we both did this out in the hallway of this hotel.
Yes,
and
we did.
It was the first time that either one of us had done this on our phones, had recorded a video. So I like to believe that, particularly you, as we are here on Facebook on Live, that you've come a long way, Delinda. I've just come a long way with you.
We both have, and it really, it really was great because it really bonded our friendship, and we decided, you know what? Why don't we keep connected? And now we talk and share, kind of keep each other accountable. I don't know if we've ever called ourselves accountability partners or not, but that's kind of what we are, that we've been. So we speak just about every Wednesday and touch base on what's going on with our business. So I've just grown to appreciate you and your friendship so much. It's been amazing. So
right back at you, because I remember seeing Delinda take the stage in her her red high heels. And because I was sitting in the first row, the first thing I saw were her. And I thought, it's amazing she can walk in those things, because I sure can't. And then as soon as she opened her mouth, and all of the energy that you who follow her regularly have seen her, have, and just the light that shines from her, I thought, this is a person I need to get to know, and I'm grateful that I've had the chance.
So it has been a wonderful what that would make us 5 years now. So, as a matter of fact, that just reminded me that we connected first at the big. So we were in a kind of a master speakers ongoing class called Speak, and then we elevated to the next level after that. And so when we first met, the stage that you're talking about, I think, was earlier in the spring. And I don't remember where that one was. And then
it was in
together.
Arizona.
Oh, in Arizona, right? Oh, what a great memory you have. And,
Depends on the subject.
We connected in July and did that the video out in the hallways. So it's been just been a wonderful time. And I see we hear Linda Parrish should have chimed in earlier. Oh, anytime you chime in is good, girlfriend. And I don't know, can you see that, Lynn? I don't know if you can see the chats. Can you?
I sure can.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
And
so
Karen,
Deborah, Linda, Karen, and Beatrice, glad you're here.
Hey, B, good morning. I love, this is B's favorite saying. And she was in my Mary Kay units, X number of however many years ago that was. And she would always say, I'd say, how you doing today, B? And she'd say, I am too blessed to be stressed or depressed. Is that a great saying? I love it. She is a very, very strong woman of faith, and she just doesn't let things get her down. So I love you, B. It's so great to see you on here. So, all right. So, Lynn, tell everybody a little bit about you. I'm going to say one more thing about you. I call her and she knows this is lovingly from my heart, my brainiac friend. And she just, not only is she a brainiac, smart person herself, but she knows all about how the brain works and all that. So she has a lot of information she can always share with us. And so tell them a little bit about you.
Hey, well, what Delinda alluded to is that I call myself a neuroscience nerd. So I study how the brain works. And so I read the boring research on, scientists found out this about the brain. And then I try to figure out, well, what does that mean in the real world? And I'll just give you one quick example that resonates with lots of people. And my bet is that back when we could all be doing in-person networking or being with people that we didn't necessarily know, family events or others, have you ever had the experience where you meet somebody new and you're chatting for a while and you realize about 2 minutes in that you cannot for the life of you remember that person's name? Especially if their name tag is obscured by hair or something, and or they're not wearing a name tag at all, and so you feel that uncomfortable feeling. How many of you have ever done that?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
So here's what's going on in your brain that causes that, and I call it the 7-second rule. For the first 7 seconds after you meet a new person, your brain is overwhelmed with information. So your conscious mind can handle about 10 to 50 bits of information per second. And you got so much more than that coming in. And that's usually when you're introducing yourself, right? Hi, my name is. And so you're doing that in the first 7 seconds, your brain has too much information going on. It just throws out their name when they respond. And to complicate that further, names have no inherent meaning in our brains unless we can make a quick association with them. So if Delinda says, hi, my name is Delinda, and your sister's name is Delinda, okay. But if you've never met a Delinda before in your life, then your brain just throws it out. So your brain is conspiring against you to remember people's names. So I say, now that you know this, never introduce yourself within the first 7 seconds of having met a new person because your brain just doesn't have the bandwidth. So instead, say something like, oh, isn't it a beautiful day outside? And let them respond. Or ask a question like, oh, is this the first time you've ever been to an event like this one? And let them answer. And by this time, 7 seconds have gone by and your brain has calmed down. And then you can introduce yourself and then you can ask that person's name and concentrate on them and say their name a couple of times as you're looking into their faces. And that moves the information from your short-term into your long-term memory so that when your friend shows up 3 minutes down the pike and expects you to be able to introduce this person that you met, you don't have to be doing that tap dancing thing where you don't want to let them know that you've forgotten their name. So whenever you meet a new person, use the 7-second rule, which is never introduce yourself in the first 7 seconds because you know you can't remember people's names.
I love that. And I remember, Lynn, when you first told me that, and I think you first told me that back in our early, when we first got together, because I've been teaching that in the whole introducing people at networking. Some of y'all have been in my first class of, learning to, give your 1 minute your 1 minute speech, elevator speech, whatever you want to call it. And that's one of the very first things we talk about is don't say your name in the first 7. I forgot it was 7 seconds. Mm-hmm. I remember I just say, don't say your name first, say something else first, because they won't remember you anyway. And I love that. I'm so glad you went over that again today, because I know there's several on here that have not heard that before, because they either haven't been in a networking thing with me before, or in one of our groups or something. So yay, we already had a lesson. It's worth the morning. Goodbye. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, and stuff like that I love to share. So it's, if there's a reason to do something one way versus another because of how our brain works, because my true belief is that we can only do so much on our own, and it's only through connecting with other people that we can have a bigger impact on the world. And it also turns out that our first name is the most important word in any language to any of us. And if I want to connect with you, I need to make the effort to remember your first name, because that's important to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Something for all of us to remember, for sure. Let's see. Kathy says, wow, what a great day. Hi, ladies. Love learning about the brain. I know. Me too, Kathy. And B says that makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. All right. So go back, because I interrupted you, I think. And that's kind of how the morning goes. This is, what do they call that? It just happens. It's spontaneous.
It's a spontaneous chat.
Yeah. So go back and tell a little bit more about you, and then we'll get into our topic. So this is so great already. So you've been studying the brain. And so what are you doing right now? What is your main focus in your business right now?
And, and right now, a lot of what I'm doing is, okay, so here's my mission: to use communication to help people solve their problems and get what they want. And how that looks depends upon what it is that people want and need. And so one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm working with the president of a company, a hospitality company down in Dallas. And it's because I know a lot of you do coaching. And you get brought in usually for the wrong reason. And so I was hired by the chairman of this company, who said, this president needs to have more, he needs to present himself in a more polished way. So he needs speaker training. And I know that's code for something, and then it's my job to figure out what it really means. And so after having done a personality inventory of the president, and so I knew what he valued and what was important to him and how he liked to learn, and talking to all the people around him, one of the things I discovered is that the chairman, who's the guy who hired me, is a real control freak. And so the chairman ultimately wanted in 3 years' time to promote the president to chairman, but he just didn't think that he was polished enough. And so that was why, so presentation skills, yes, but the idea was prepare this man to be chairman. Wow. And at the same time, this guy who happened to be the president right now, he wanted to shorten up this time frame. So he didn't want to wait 3 years to be chairman. He wanted to move it up. And I said to him, okay, so now that you're dealing with the chairman who wants to be large and in charge all the time, we're going to change how you communicate with this man. And we're going to give him the impression that everything you're doing is because you have heard the things that are important to him, and you are implementing these things. So we literally changed the way that he would write emails to the chairman, and that he would speak to the chairman in meetings or when they were on the phone. And it was like tweaking things and making the president more aware of what was it that he really wanted, and what could he say to move that agenda along. And because we've been doing this now for about 9 months, the chairman has let him know that it's not going to take 3 years to make him chairman. Ooh. They're literally going to cut this time in half, and this man will likely become chairman by the end of this year.
Wow.
So in this instance, it was using communication to help the president shorten the time it's going to take him to be chairman and help the chairman feel comfortable enough that he can let go of the reins and let this happen. So it's fun stuff like that.
That is huge. And actually, that's going to segue right into our topic today of, you know, sometimes we know what we want and we thought, okay, here's how I'm going to get to this goal. And yet the how sometimes is not getting us there, or it's not working. And so we get so caught up sometimes on why isn't it working this way, when really there could be other ways to do it that would get us to the long-term goal. And I think you did a video on that recently.
Right. Yeah. And for me, what I discovered is a lot of times it's the old forest for the trees deal, isn't it? I get so focused on doing the next thing in front of me, I forget why I'm doing it. The best story I have about that is because I know, once again, a lot of you do networking. And, you know, a couple years back, I was doing a networking coffee with a guy who was president of a market research company. And, you know, and going into the meeting, I thought, so my goal is to see if there are people who I know who could use his services and people he knows who could use mine, and we could help each other out. So that's my goal going in. And so we sit down at Starbucks, and 5 minutes into the conversation, I can see, you know, and so that was my goal. My how was, okay, so I'll let him talk for about half of the time and me talk for about half of the time, and then we'll figure out how we can work together. So that became my expectation. The goal was we would be able to share information and share clients and possibly get business with each other's help. And the expectation was we'll spend an equal amount of time on each of us, and then we'll figure out how to make these connections. So about 5 minutes into this conversation, I realized this man is going to talk for the next 50 minutes. And before I had done any kind of the personality work that I've done, I would have thought, well, what a jerk. You know, all he wants to do is talk about himself. And, you know, and he doesn't want to listen. He doesn't care about me at all, doesn't want to listen to anything I have to say. When's the soonest I can get out of here? And so, because I got so caught up in I want equal time, and he's not going to give it to me. And so then, you know, then the magic occurs of when you sit down and think, okay, my goal was that he would be able to introduce me to people that he knows who should know me, and vice versa. Do I think he knows people who should know me? And I thought, yes, I believe I do. I believe he does. And then the follow-up question was, am I willing to pay the price to sit here and listen to him explain to me in excruciating detail just how his market research company works, because he believes that by letting me know the details, he's building rapport with me, because that's his approach, not mine. And so am I willing to, you know, spend the time sitting here listening to him in hopes that then he will feel a connection with me and then be willing to introduce me to people he knows who should know me. And I thought, yeah, I'm willing to do that. And so literally it was 5 minutes before the top of the hour, he turns to me and he says, so what do you do? And get crap done. And literally within the next week, he introduced me to a man who became an excellent client of mine for a number of years. Now, if I had gotten hung up on the expectation of, well, I want equal time, and saw that that was not going to happen and left, I would expected things to happen. But because I was able to see, no, the goal is to have him connect me with people and to have me connect him, then I was willing to create rapport in the way he wanted to do it, rather than my time-based, we get equal time approach. So the idea is sometimes how we expect something to happen is not going on, and we get so caught up in well, this is what I wanted to have happen, this is my expectation. But if we let that go and relax a little bit and make sure that, yes, there still is a reason for us here to be here to reach our goals, we can get to our goal in a way that's better than how we planned.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I bet that happens more often than we think. You know, it may be very obvious like that, but I think there's probably other more subtle ways that just as we go about our business or our life, that we don't even realize that that's kind of what's happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, how many situations have you been where you do the internal eye roll? So let's all do that together and just give it a big,
like,
and that's usually because our expectations are not being met. And we get impatient because our expectations are not being met. So when you're having that eye roll moment, remind yourself, ask yourself, so what was my goal for this? Why am I doing this in the first place? And if your goal is still achievable, just not in the way that you expected it, hang in there. But if your goal is not going to be achievable, then it may be time to make the decision that, no, this is not a good use of my time and my talent, and let it go. But make decisions based upon your goal rather than how you expected it to happen.
And I think too, in our lives that are filled with busyness, our American society, so to speak, I guess, we're constantly busy or anticipating the next thing, that I think it is easy to lose track of, why am I doing this? Or what is my goal? I've been to 18 networking things or 18 Zoom things in the last week or two, whatever the number is. And, I haven't really connected with anybody, and, whatever that is. And we lose sight of what's the point? What is your goal? Is it to, and I think and we've talked a lot about this over the last years, actually, about in networking, setting unrealistic, we go into an actual live thing, and you think that you're going to meet everybody in the room and you're going to come out with 15 business cards and 5 new clients or something. It's like, no, that's just not really how it works. And, and when you can, like, say our expectations, sometimes I think as we set our expectations in unrealistic manner, like, what is the point? If I can go in and make one solid connection with someone where I do want to have coffee and get to know them better, then that's been a good event. Somebody new that I can connect with. Sometimes, depending on the group and the amount of time, it'll be a couple, but usually it's just a few people. If you can make a good, solid, authentic connection, that's a victory. That's a good thing. And I think Kathy,
it's funny that
agree with that.
Yeah, that you talk about networking, because back in the days because all of us were young in networking at one point. And I remember how many doorways did I stand in before I took the deep breath and launched myself into the room, and thinking, I want to find a new client. And and there's a song from an old Broadway musical called A Chorus Line. And all I remember is the refrain of it. And it was one that would go through my head as I was standing and sweating in the doorway, which is, and excuse my voice, I really need this job. Oh God, I need this job. And it's like you send off waves of desperation, which just turn off everybody in the room. And so, like you, after how many times of going to networking meetings and not finding a new client, and ultimately and here's the one thing about goals in your brain: if you set goals that are unachievable, it actually disincentivizes you. So then you start going to fewer networking meetings because you never get what you want. The goal has turned you off. So just like Delinda, whenever I do networking, my goals are pretty darn simple. It's usually have at least 3 interesting conversations and meet one person I want to talk to again. And why I want to talk to that person doesn't necessarily mean that they are a good client or they know somebody who could be a good client. They could just be a good person I want to know better. And boy, when I shifted my goal for that, it took the pressure off. And I started to enjoy things because I was there for an interesting conversation. And frankly, that made me a whole lot more interesting too, because I was there to listen to what people said that would tickle me.
Yeah, not in my earlier day. I think I've networked my whole life just because that's the personality that I have. I just never knew it had a name. But when I started the official networking thing, I had several of those early meet with somebody and have coffee where they did talk the whole time. And it's like, okay. And usually I was very interested. I mean, because I enjoy people and stuff. But it'd get to the end and I would be like, well, now, what do I do with this? You
Mm-hmm.
know, how do I have 5 minutes here. Like, how do I tell you what I did to see if there's going to be a connection or something? So
Mm-hmm.
it is just kind of learning to deal with that. Of course, and also many of my coffees, because I enjoyed the people, usually I would connect with someone I really wanted to know. And then we'd spend 2 or 3 hours at coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and sometimes, and many times that becomes the really the goal in creating those authentic, long-lasting relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all in, you know, what is your goal, and do we get kind of caught up on the hows, and if it doesn't go the way that you think it should. So do you have some other examples of that, Lynn, and what continue on in your conversation?
Well, you know, and it's and we've all done that. We've set the goal, and then we we plot our course to getting there, and things frustrate us along the way, and we get stuck in the frustration of the moment, and that can also make us give up on our goals too. Oh, and we get to the point where, oh, that'll never. It's just if I can't get from A to B, how can I ever get to my goal? And then we focus on the fact that we're not moving as quickly or in as straight a line as we want to, and then we just give up because we think our goal has become unachievable. And honest to goodness, the one of the things that age has taught me is that sometimes I just need to relax and and not try to push so hard for something that and I know, Delinda, you would say it's God's plan, and God has his own way of bringing it about. And just because I'm thinking it needs to go this way, well, maybe going that way is actually the better path for me, because we've all had those experiences where we wanted something and we were disappointed. And we sat in the disappointment, and then later something even better happened that would not have happened had we gone down the pathway that we intended to go. So maybe it was we got fired from a job or let go and thought, this is the most awful thing. And then we ended up getting a job that was better than the one that we lost. And we never would have gotten that job, never would have met that goal of enjoying the work that we do if we hadn't been kicked out of the last job. So sometimes it truly is this faith of things happen for a reason. And sometimes they happen in ways that I do not expect and frankly did not want.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the sky has fallen, that I can never get to where I want to be. It means that how the path to my goal has changed. And so not to get so hung up on, this is how I thought it was going to go and it's not going that way. Well, just throw it all out. To have patience with yourself and with the situation, and let better things reveal themselves.
I love that, and I think it really is true that there is a lot to be said for timing, and again, I would call it God's timing, and that sometimes there's still things we need to learn to set us up for that best thing that's coming. And I have heard many stories. The example you used about the job, many times where someone lost a job, or usually that's it. A company closed down, they lost their job for whatever the reason, got fired, and then later realize, well, I'm sitting home anyway. They start their own business, or they find a job with somebody else that's so much better than the one that they had, but you had to go through that. That isn't how you thought your life was going to go, and you have to make that adjustment, and being open. I think a big part of that is being open to the fact that things have changed. And hey, if 2020 is an example of that, how things have changed. And I think Jennifer said this a few weeks ago, that the number of, or the percentage of new businesses that have put into the Small Business Administration and all has grown significantly, because so many people who haven't had jobs this last year, they lost their jobs, whatever business it was, and decided, well, you know what, I'm just going to start my own business. I always wanted to do this. And so even though this got shut down, the windows and the doors that have been open, and turns out it's a better place. So I think that when we get too irritated with the how and it's not going like I want to, well, maybe we need to let go of that and see what things are better, what things are ahead for us.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard other people talk about listening to this still small voice in your head. And sometimes mine speaks and I listen to it and I'm rewarded. There are other times I cannot for the life of me, because all the other noise that's going on in my head, hear it. But the idea of being patient with yourself and being patient with just taking a deep breath. So let's all do that together.
I love deep breaths.
Just take the deep breath and see what there is to see in calmness, rather than, because I'll just speak for myself. I've been in that frantic activity, and which usually does not net me anything but more frantic activity. And and it truly becomes do take that time to take a deep breath and see, and Delinda's heard me say this a lot, to take out my head trash. And and clear some space where I can pay attention to what is actually going on, rather than what is it that I think I'm seeing. Because once again, as a neuroscience nerd, I know what ends up happening in our brains is that our brains are there to help us stay safe. Our brains are there for us to for us to survive. And so a lot of times what ends up happening is that our brains are always trying to project forward, guess what's going to happen next. And because we can't know what's going to happen next in most circumstances, our brain reaches back into our past and fills in the gaps. It's looking for, when have I been in this situation before and what happened then? And that's probably what's going to happen now. So I'll just expect that that's what's next. And that isn't always the case. And that's why we get stuck sometimes in the how. Well, this is how I did it last time. And why is the how not working now? And trying to force that how into being. Because once again, it's just our brains filling in the gaps and thinking that there's only this one way to get there, because that's been the only way that we have seen. And it truly becomes an invitation to, what are other ways to get what we want, rather than just this path, which we in our heads think is the only way. We have to be open to other ways to get to our goals.
Absolutely. I love that, because that helps explain a little bit about when we talk about, and I don't know if it's the proper wording, but when we talk about reprogramming our brain. So when you're talking about that, it goes back to get the things that you've done in the past, even if they weren't successful, that's all it knows, right?
Right.
So we have to reprogram it or teach it differently.
Mm-hmm. Is
that a good way of saying that, so that we can make different choices and have different options?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff out there these days, and right on unconscious bias, and and the same is going on here. And I'll give you one example. It's called the halo effect, where we see somebody do something that we like, or something that we might have done, and we think, oh, they're just like me. And then, without even thinking, our brain fills in the gaps of, well, if they're like me in this way, they'll be like me in this way, and like me in this way, and like me in this way. So what ends up happening is that we attribute all kinds of positive qualities to somebody, and we've never seen them do any of these things. We've seen them maybe do the one thing initially, but our brain likes to fill in the gaps. So well, if they do this, then they're likely that, I bet they've done this, and I bet they've done this, and I bet they've done this. And how many times have we put that somebody, and then later on encountered them saying or doing something that just does not fit with this? And we think, how could they possibly have done that? And the answer is, they are just being who they are. We were attributing all kinds of really nice things to them that weren't theirs. It was just our brains filling in the gap. And obviously we do the same thing, and it's called the horns effect, where we see somebody doing something we don't like, and we think, well, if they're doing this, I bet they also do this and this and this and this. And we attribute all these kinds of negative things to them that we've never seen them do. We have absolutely no proof that they would do. And then they do something nice, and we think, well, that's totally out of character for them. And it's not. It's just that our brains have gone ahead and projected, well, if this is so, then these 7 other things must be so too, either positively or negatively. And then we get surprised. So sometimes the thoughts that we have about people, we need to pause and figure out, is that something I've really seen them do? And so, yes, they are this person, this good person I believe they are, or they are this bad person that I believe they are. Our brain just does this automatically. And sometimes we need to pause and figure out what is really true because I've observed it versus what am I just imagining and tacking on to them.
Wow. Now that is a big subject right there, Lynn. Like, okay, so I'm going to ask you right now, can we look at another Tuesday and have you come back?
Happy to do that. Happy to do that. As a matter of fact, if this stuff is interesting to you, I'm actually giving a talk tomorrow as part of a group. It's called Fasten, F-A, the letter, Fasten 8 Talk. I'm going to be talking about unconscious bias.
Oh,
and why it's so hard to change that.
Yeah, and I don't think we even know we're doing it.
FascinateTalks.com is the place you can go to register for this, and it'll be me and it'll be 7 other speakers, and we each have 8 minutes to share great ideas. And this is unconscious bias, and I think the title of my talk is "You Can't Be a Leader Without Being Biased." And so it's all of us have 8 minutes to share great usable ideas that are fun for people.
Oh, that is great. Can you post that? Because I lost a little bit. Can you post that in the box there? Or
certainly.
In the comments or something, so then we can see that. Because I know I'm definitely interested in watching that and listening to that. So yeah, so we will have you back on again, because I think in today's world, there's so much of that going on. We're all calling, it's mostly being called, being prejudiced out there. And sometimes I think you're right that, and I just never thought of it or had it presented that way, that, our brain fills in if this person, like you say, did this one thing, then that determines who they are as a person. Well, no, that's just one thing they did. What does that have to do with the rest of them?
Right.
The other choices they might make, both good and bad,
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think sometimes we put such unrealistic expectations on other people because we have done that. And so then we get so disappointed and mad and whatever. So I think that
they're always shocked. The other person is always shocked that we're so upset about something because they never thought they were leading us down that path.
Right.
And it was just that, that internal conversation that we were having, our brain saying, well, if they're doing this, then they'll probably do this and this and this and this and this, either to plus or minus.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. I'm going to get with you. We'll set up a new date. You're going to post that in the box here.
Okay. And I'll be honest with you, because this is my first time on Facebook Live, so I'm not sure how to post in the chat.
Okay. So you might not be able to, because I think on my end, is the admin on here. I may be able to do on here. And I lost, tell it to me. I couldn't hear you, kind of faded out.
Yeah, so the word is Fascinate Talks. It's fascinatetalks.com, but it's spelled F-A-S-C-I-N and then the numeral 8 and then TALKS.com, fascinatetalks.com. And that's, go there, register. It's going to be a fun program. It's going to be fast-paced. It's tomorrow and I'm talking Central Time, from 2 to 4. And then when it's all over, when everybody is given their programs, then all the speakers are going to hang around and you can ask them questions.
Oh, cool. Fasten, F-A-S-C-I-N, number 8, talks.com.
That's the one. Perfect. Thanks, Kathy, for typing it in.
Kathy did that too. Okay, cool. Thank you, Kathy. All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour. Big surprise. It always goes so fast. So thank you, Lynn. Oh, awesome this morning.
Hey, well, and it's wonderful to be with all of you and start our days with a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of verbal sunshine.
Yes, absolutely. And I think as we understand more about how our brain works, then we actually can take a little more, to use not good word, a little more control over ourselves.
Well, and if, because unconscious bias is really hard to control, but awareness is always the first step.
Yes.
Because when we don't know what's going on, then we really can't do anything. But if we do know that this kind of stuff is happening, we can take that pause and, and ask ourselves a couple of questions to see whether or not we're really doing what it is that we want to do that keeps us in integrity as people. And, and that makes all the difference in the world.
It does. And it also helps understand why, you hear people all the time, and I've certainly done it myself. why do I keep doing, Delinda, don't you ever learn? I keep doing the same thing over and over and over. That's because I'm already predetermined myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to break that, choose a different path or whatever that is. And it's another way of just really, Kathy, you are too funny, girlfriend. Kathy and I are both on the road. We do like to control things.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, well, thanks again for being here. I know we're over. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us this morning. Remember that life is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. Choose wisely. Choose to learn more about yourself and more about our brains. I think it behooves us to do that. And go out and make it a great week. Love you guys. See you next week. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Bye, everybody.
Bye.